And Chanami, there is definitely a halacha that they have to read it before the Nesinas Haget. Now, there's a very basic question discussed here at length by the Pnei Yeshua as to what exactly is this halacha discussing. What is the point of this halacha that the Gemara says that the Eidei Mesira have to read the get? That we know, of course, that when it comes to Eidei Mesira, there are two roles that can be played by the Eidei Mesira. One is that of eidus l'kiyuma, the eidus who uphold the legal act of gerushin. We know that when it comes to a davar shebe'erva, that it has to be done in the presence of witnesses. Kedushin, gerushin, has to be done in the presence of witnesses. If someone is mekadosh and isha, there's no one else present, even though they both know that he gave her a tabas and he said her et mukadeshes li b'tabazu, it's not kedushin at all. There's eidus l'kiyuma, there's eidus to uphold the act, and if not, it's batal. It's null and void completely. So that's called eidus l'kiyuma. So we have to have the Eidei Mesira in order for the gerushin to be considered a gerushin. The other role of the Eidei Mesira would be to testify, in fact, that the gerushin took place later on. When we want to know whether, in fact, she was divorced, these Eidim will be able to testify that they saw the divorce. That's eidus livruri. That's eidus to tell us the fact that took place, to be mevar for us that which took place. One is eidus l'kiyumi, eidus which actually uphold the act and make it into a valid halachic act, make it into gerushin, in the case of kedushin, make it into kedushin, and the other is eidus livrure, to clear up for us, to establish the fact that gerushin actually took place. Now, the Pnei Yeshua discusses at length what issue is being addressed in this Gemara. For what reason do the Eidei Mesira have to read the get? Do we say that the reason why they have to read the get is because if they didn't read the get at the time that the get was given, then they can't be Eidei Mesira? Because we can't say that they're actually witnessing the giving of a get because they themselves don't see that it's a get. They see the husband giving his wife a document, but if they didn't read it and they didn't see that it's a get, that's not called that they were witnessing the giving of the get, so they're not Eidei Mesira, in which case the gerushin would not be a gerushin. And if that were so, even if afterwards, if after a few moments we look at it and we see that in fact it was a get, we could still say that the gerushin are not gerushin at all because there was not valid Eidei Mesira, which are Eidim l'kiyuma, at the time of the Nesinas Haget. So in spite of the fact that they heard the husband say, Harei Zagitech, this is your get, and he gave her a document, since they didn't read it, we say that they're not good Eidei Mesira l'kiyuma. The other side, says the Pnei Yeshua, is to say that that's not a problem, because since the husband said Harei Zagitech and they see that he's handing her this thing, he's saying that it's a get, that's considered to be that they witnessed the act of divorce. And if later we would be able to check and make sure that in fact it was a get, it would be fine. This would be a proper gerushin. There wouldn't be any problem of eidus l'kiyuma. The whole problem would arise if immediately after she received it, if the get was destroyed. Just as similar to the case which the Gemara brings from that price. She received the get, and then right afterwards it was destroyed, and we can't see whether in fact it was a get or not. We have to rely on the Eidei Mesira to tell us whether in fact there was gerushin. And that, says the Gemara, that the halacha is that they have to read the get at the time of the Nesinas Haget in order to be able to be made later that in fact the gerushin took place. But the problem would only be if we're unable to know otherwise that the gerushin took place. But if we ourselves could read the get afterwards and see in fact that it was a get, that would be fine and there wouldn't be any problem with the gerushin. So these are two very different ways of learning pshat in the Gemara. And the Pnei Yeshua discusses at length the Tosfos Dibur Maskal Tzrichi L'Mikarye, where Tosfos says at first that it's supposed to be read before the Nesinas Haget, and the Pnei Yeshua actually says that Tosfos itself could be learned in both ways. Tosfos says that it's to be read before the Nesina, and he wants to learn, says the Pnei Yeshua, that's because if not, it won't be considered to be a gerushin. Even if afterwards we'll see in fact that it was a get, but the gerushin are not good gerushin because it was not considered to have been done in the presence of witnesses, because those Eidei Mesira did not witness a Nesinas Haget, because at the time that they were witnessing the Nesina, they weren't really sure that it's a get because they didn't read it. And that which Tosfos says at the end, the very last line of the Tosfos, that if you read it la'achar ha-Nesina, Dover Pasha to the Meguresha, says that that will mean if they read it immediately after the Nesina, Toich Kidei Dibur, because that's all considered to be at the time of the Nesina. But the other way, says the Pnei Yeshua, of learning Tosfos is that the whole problem is only if we're unable to read it afterwards, and even after a while, as long as we still see that it's the same document that she has in her hands. If we would be able to see that it was a get, there wouldn't be any problem. We would definitely be able to establish that this definitely was gerushin. And then the halacha would be that they have to read it before the Nesinas Haget in order to avoid any problems later. They should see it before and at the time of the Nesinas Haget in order to avoid any problems in case the get gets lost right away. They will be able to be made that in fact it was a get. But certainly, as Tosfos says at the end, if we read it afterwards, and according to this pshat, it will be even after Toich Kedei Divor, even if we read it, as long as we see that it's the same document, and we read it afterwards and we saw that it is a get, there wouldn't be any problem, because it's been established to us that in fact she did receive the get. Where are the Eida Mesira? Even though at the time of the Nesinas Haget they hadn't read it, that's not a problem as far as L'Kiyumi is concerned, because so they did witness the act of the Gerushin. Ayin Barichas in the Pnei Yeshua, and it would appear also that this is a Machloikas HaRishayim, Ayin in the Rishayim here on the Gemara in the Ranan and Chidushay HaRamban. Continues the Gemara, who gav